Look at that, man. You got your fancy like title up there.
Hey, it asked. That's not the fancy one. The
Oh, well,
fancy
I
one
think
is category manager of performance.
that would be pretty dialed to have as the title, right?
There's worse. There's worse titles to have.
All right. So we are live and we're 25 seconds live, and we're just going to wait a little bit to build the audience, and then we'll bring Tater Sontag on to the show. Right now, we're sitting with Frank Root. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure you guys, if you guys are part of the race scene, you definitely know who Frank is. And then myself, Thomas Tran, and we're just chilling out, part of TLR, and kind of celebrating one of the most epic races I've been a part of since becoming team manager, or actually just being in the industry altogether. So just an epic race. I wouldn't say it was epic in sense of like a amazing battle, but I think the race itself and what it stands for is pretty epic, right? TLR first world championship title in 20 years. I was talking to Cavalieri back in the day, and he was saying that he was the last one in 2003. So it's definitely been a while. So an epic race and an epic outcome for TLR, but then also um, just the age, right, Frank? I mean, being 16 years old and being at the Worlds and competing at your first one and having it work out in your favor, work out in the end. That's pretty epic too.
Yeah, I mean, for me, obviously, you kind of got through a lot there, but yeah, it was an epic race. Definitely an epic race for our team. I thought it was just a great event overall, regardless of the outcome. So I just thought it was a really great week. And yeah, I mean, I knew that we hadn't won a Worlds in a little while in recent kind of memory, but I wasn't really aware that it was that had been 20 years until I was going up to the driver's stand to congratulate Tater, and I passed Cav, and he's like, "Good job, 20 years, a long time." Then he reminded me he was the last one to win one as he was heading down from that main. So yeah, I thought that was really
Oh wow!
yeah. So
So
that
you
was kind
found
of
out as you were going to congratulate.
yeah, literally.
Wow.
So
Okay. So I
so
found out like earlier in the year when I was talking with Cavalieri at a race, and he's like, "Yeah, man, 20 years. It's been a long time for you guys." And I'm like, "Oh, it hasn't been 20 years." And he obviously knows because he was the last one to achieve it. And so I was just like, "Oh man, well, if anybody knows when they won a championship, I think that's a date you would remember, and a monumental date for you." So he knew and reminded me, and for 20 years to go by without bringing a title back, and to have it done in such a fashion on U.S. soil, awesome facility, hobby action. I can't congratulate and commend Larry Tom and his crew for such an awesome job dealing with a lot of challenges and dealing with the obstacles of hosting a major race.
yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of races at Hobby Action since they opened, right? And I think at this point, like, we kind of take them as old school, like we're always going there. But they only opened the shop or the track portion, I think, in what, 2016. Like, it's not that old, but we've just gone to so many events there. And the thing that's crazy about Hobby Action is, like, every time we go there, the event's great. So it's like, okay, how's it going to feel to be the World? Is it going to feel like something different? And they definitely,
Yeah.
between the Hobby Action and Stick It One, they definitely brought the vibe there. I mean, it was definitely a step up in event, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. And yeah, I think the crazy thing about the 20 years is, like, I feel like we've been in so many of these races and been so close to getting that title that I didn't, I just kind of assumed that we had won some in there. So definitely had some really, really, really close calls, for getting those. And I mean, Slovakia stands out, Italy with Mayfield. So yeah, definitely been close, but hey, we got it. We got it this time around.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think everybody's goal, you know what I mean? Like it's been on everybody's minds, and it just turned out, you know, and like I said, Hobby Action did a fantastic job. It was a question I had too, if you know, would this world be, would it feel like a Worlds, since we're not traveling anywhere? We go to Hobby Action quite a bit throughout the year, and in my mind, with the amount of effort that they put in, the tire tech and all that stuff, you know, all the officiating, all the protesting, all the rules, all the team announcements and stuff like that, definitely had, for me, definitely had a Worlds feel. The presentation, the track condition. Each time we go back, Hobby Action gets better. You know, it has more grip. And even though we didn't run with sauce, I think a lot of people had quite a bit of grip, especially during, you know, deep into qualifying and during mains. So, but yeah, fantastic event and epic race. New two-wheeled world champion. I couldn't be more proud of this young man. Just watching him grow up through, you know, being a part of the industry and then being a team manager for TLR and watching him progress. I'm super proud of where he's come and where he's going. It's just been phenomenal to be a part of, and to see his attitude and his personality and like just his demeanor, just mature, you know, take that turn and just mature and kind of hit that next level. It's been awesome to watch. So let's introduce your new IFMAR two-wheel world champion, Tater Sontag. All right, Tater, what is going on? You got the gamer chair, you know, got it set on lock, ready to go.
Yeah, I'm actually lucky. I almost threw this thing away a couple weeks ago. Glad I kept it though. This thing's old.
It's hot.
It's got butt indents.
As long as the dogs haven't chewed on it, it's all good, right?
They're not allowed upstairs for that reason.
So let's just go back. Well, first off, I want to say hi to everybody that's online right now, watching and chatting, and got their questions ready. We're gonna definitely hit the questions at the very end, but we have just a quick little outline to go through and just talk about and run it down. So first, we'll kind of want to talk about the outstanding performance you've had so far up into Worlds. So let's talk about everything before Worlds, 2023 at the very start until Worlds. I mean, you've had a pretty phenomenal year. Each race that we've been to, your results from your previous year has improved. I mean, what's kind of been the shift in your program and like your driving, and what's causing the mass amounts of improvement that we've been getting able to see race after race?
Yeah, I mean, definitely been putting in a lot more time and effort this year. I think a lot of it probably has to do with me having my license now, so I can just go to the track whenever I want, not having to work around somebody else's schedule. So that helped a lot for sure. But yeah, I mean, I've just been putting in a lot of time trying to go to the track. I try to go 2 times at least a week. Luckily, I live close to Aiden, so we're able to go and run a bunch. So that helps a bunch to have somebody that's, you know, on the same, you know, pace as you, so you can push each other when you're racing too, and we can always, you know, bounce ideas off each other, improve each other's cars, etc. But yeah, so I mean, just going to the track a lot more, just dedicating a lot more time to it, focusing on it a lot more. I do online school, so that makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah. So you mentioned something that I think is pretty key, is that you actually said that you go to the track, you try to go to the track twice a week, right? I think a lot of people have a misconception that they need to be hammering it down, grinding out hours, and be at the track 5-6 days a week. You know, is there a reason why? What is your reason why to limiting yourself to twice a week?
Mainly just trying not to get burnt out. I feel like that if I'm at the track, you know, 4 days out of the week, I mean, the other 3 days, you know, you got to get the cars ready for the next days or whatnot. And then there just doesn't really have a lot of time to do, you know, your normal day-to-day stuff. But a lot of it's just probably not getting burnt out. I feel like if I was at the track 4 days a week, and then say I went to the track Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we leave Friday for a race, I'm probably going to be over it by the time I get to that race. So
Yeah, I think there's a key balance, right? Like making effective use of your time versus spending too much time where you're kind of burning yourself out. And I've been down this path where I've spent 5 days at the track, and then I'm gonna go spend a quick, you know, day rebuilding my cars, and then I'm off to a race. And then
Yeah.
usually by the end of the weekend, you've had enough. You just kind of want to shoot yourself in the head and be done with it. But you know, like for me, if I spend too much time at the track, it actually becomes counterproductive.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Frank?
I think for me, it's all about just when you're at the track, spending quality time at the track, right? Like if you're going to the track 2 days a week, like Tater is, when you show up at the track, your cars are prepped, you have an idea of what you're willing or wanting to try that day, or maybe you're going to focus on your driving. I see a lot of people that they go to the track a lot, but they don't have any real focus behind it, and they think that just being there is putting the time in, but that's not the whole program. And then when you think about somebody like Tater or Dakota, like they're going to probably, let's say, 2 races a month. So if they're going to 2 races a month, that's already 10 days out of the month that they're at the track. So 10 out of 31. So if you do 2 days a week, those other, the rest of the month, now you're at 14 out of 31 days plus prep days. So you're already doing RC for more than half the days in the month. So, I mean, that's quite a bit, especially with somebody Tater's age who's still doing school. Like that's a lot to do. And like he was saying, it's really easy to burn yourself out if you're trying to do it 24/7.
Yeah, the the other thing he also said is he turned 16. He was able to drive himself to the track, folks. All right, so I don't know. I'm in this generation. I'm around a lot of people, a lot of kids, and most kids these days don't look forward to actually driving themselves to the track. They don't look forward to getting their license. Not like when I was 16 and 15. We on the day of, you scheduled your appointments and you showed up and you flunked the first time and you take it, you retake it, and you pass. That's usually the formula. Now, most kids I talk to, they don't really, want to get their license. They don't want to be driving. And I think this is a separator here. I think it's a motivational separator, right? Tater wants to go to the track and practice on his schedule. He doesn't want to wait around for his dad and mom to drop him off or have time and make the schedule for him. He gets to kind of dictate that and decide when he wants to go and where he wants to go, and be able to go there, practice, and leave when he wants to leave. I think that's huge for somebody his age, getting into RC and wanting to improve, is actually spending that time and being able to go on your own schedule.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the next question that I had for Tater, which was, let's talk about, now you've had a phenomenal year. You've been able to go to the track on your own. You've been able to progress and keep putting in that track time and focus on getting better. What was your prep like up until Worlds? What were you focusing on? What were you trying out? What were you trying to figure out so that you could be best prepared for the World Championships?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the most thing that we collectively worked on was definitely our shock package. I feel like we all kind of had a mutual agreement beforehand that was going to be one of the biggest factors, just trying to find a shock package that made the most grip and was plush and had a good balance. Some of the packages we tried had a ton of grip, but just didn't really have any rotation to them, vice versa. So a lot of the time was definitely spent with shock packages. And then I'd say the second most thing we worked on was just trying to make the car roll as much as possible. Because when I first put on the AK tires, I was driving around on a 2x4. It felt like definitely a big difference from what we normally run. So we made a lot of changes for sure. The setup was definitely quite a few things different than what I would normally run. But yeah, shocks was definitely the main priority of the testing purposes. I alone probably spent 2 full days at the track just trying different spring combinations, pistons, oils, droop, everything, just trying to find something that felt the most balanced for me personally.
Yeah, the shocks I felt was going to be the X factor, the game changer, the difference maker in this. And and you felt this too, Tater, where we've tried to set the shocks out, we take them to a different track, and we're struggling, and we don't really know why, because the shock package worked great at a different track, and for some reason we're off pace, and we're kind of the cars aren't doing what we want, and then we have to go through the whole motion of trying a whole different piston oil spring combination. Sometimes it's 12 mil springs, 13 mil springs, sometimes it's thin piston, thick pistons, and all these different variable factors. It was an endless, I think, amount of testing before the World Championships. You know, we could go one direction and be really good, and then take it to hobby action and be like, oh crap, you know, what's plan B? You know, what do we do next if this shock wasn't really doing what we're hoping it to do, you know? Tater, also, one of the impressive things I thought was really cool is that you already kind of knew what front tire you wanted to run. You know, I think, you know, having that tested and tried out, I think that was a benefit on your side.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were fortunate enough to go out there a couple weeks beforehand, and I think we spent 3 days out there at hobby action doing some running. So, yeah, I mean, we ran majority of the time on the AKA front slick, trying 2-wheel and 4-wheel front. But yeah, you brought a set of bald eagles to try, and honestly, they just felt more natural to me. I feel like the carcass and the overall profile of the tire was a little bit. I mean, it's not saying it was better; it was just normal. You know, it's what I'm used to driving. It's the front tire I always run every weekend, so I think that just gave a little bit of comfortability to me. And it also made it super easy. You know, I didn't have to worry about trying 2-wheel fronts, 4-wheel fronts, trying voids, trying different foams. You know, I just glued up all my tires the exact same and didn't have to even think about that throughout the weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a huge benefit. You were one of the few I felt like had their program kind of figured out. Like, you didn't really adjust your shocks. You did all that testing. You didn't kind of dance around between what front tires. You did that testing. You know, you were already kind of set on what you wanted to run. And I think for me, watching you go through your program, when I talked to Frank about this, and I'm like, hey, you know, we really didn't do all that much with Tater in terms of his car setup. You know, we just check in, say, hey, how's your stuff? You'd give a simple reply with, you know, my stuff's really good. And we kind of like just leave it be. We don't want to overcomplicate things or put ideas in your head that, you know, may not jive with what you've tried. And you had a solid pace all weekend in 2-wheel. So we didn't really get into the mix and try to change up your program or force you to try things or try to keep trying to find speed. It was more about balancing just your mental state. For me, was just kind of saying the right things at the right time to keep you focused and believing in the fact that you can win. You know, for me, it was just more managing that side for you versus trying to get your car good. You were already way above and, you know, beyond everybody else, and was solid in your decisions and your prep, you know. And then I think that's one of the major differences in the weekend is that you got to actually work on your driving, you know, whereas other people like Dakota, we were trying to find a better setup, you know, and trying to keep searching for something where each time he's out there, he's getting used to his car. He's trying to find the limits without making a major mistake. And that's very, very hard to do at such a high level, at such a race, you know. So he's tiptoeing, even though he needs a solid, you know, fast run. So he wasn't really able to kind of let it loose, I don't feel, you know. So, but your program, super solid. You had your all the work done prior to showing up, and you were confident in your car set. And that's what I noticed about your program that weekend versus everybody else's. Frank, did you notice anything special or had any insights from your side?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, I haven't worked with Tater as much as a lot of the other guys on the team, just because he hadn't been on the electric circuit here until like the last year or so. And I hadn't been to a ton of the races during that time. So I didn't really know what to expect coming into the event. I think everybody in the building knew that Tater was going to have a good weekend in free practice 1. I mean, I stood over in front of the front section. So cars were jumping the single, landing in the turn, and then jumping up on top of the tabletop. And I mean, everybody's out there just like hoping to make the jump and just rolling through the turn and trying to keep momentum. And Tater's like jumping to the apex and just sending it, and it was all working out. And I'm like, ain't nobody else's car is doing that. Like, his stuff must be pretty good. And then to what you were saying, it was just like, hey man, the other guys won their worlds when they were 16. There ain't no reason you can't win this. And just like, hey, your car is good. The only time I asked him about his car is when I was getting it set up for other people. So yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty solid from the start, and definitely, I was interested to hear Tater throughout the weekend was making some changes here and there, just as the tires changed in terms of like the track breaking in and how much grip he had, and the evolution of him getting comfortable on the layout, because it wasn't like a bunch of crazy jumps like we normally would have. And he was making more changes than I expected for how good he was going. But you know, going back to my own racing career, like all my best races would happen when I came into a race with a known good setup that was balanced and neutral and like really comfortable to drive. And then when I needed to make changes as the track evolved or tires or whatever, I already know what those changes are going to be. And I'm not hoping that they do this. I know that they're going to do this because I've put in the work ahead of time. And you could really see that Tater had his program down to the T just like that for this event. So he came in with something that he knew was going to work. It worked well. And then as he needed something a little bit different or to evolve with the track, he also knew those changes. And he wasn't guessing, he was just doing. And that's a big deal when you're doing that and you're not guessing it. You can do a lot.
You know what we spent a lot of time doing? This is how I helped Tater, is finding a pair of gray springs in the back that matched.
Oh my God.
So like, he's like asking for springs. There's no springs left in the hobby shop. So obviously, you know, people are buying springs, trying stuff. So I had a set of some gray rear springs, and I didn't have any extra front ones. And so I just brought them over. We laid them all out on the table. We're like spent 30 minutes looking at the height, the coil, and I swear to God, Tater probably spent 20 minutes just deciding on which ones to run. He's like, well, this could be really good or really bad depending on which set I go with, and I don't know. And I'm just I remember just kind of like just meandering around, watching and observing, and you were kind of just contemplating on which pair of springs. And I'm like, oh my God, this is where we're at. Hey, at least we're at this point and not like wholesale changing the car. We're like, what springs, the left pair or the right pair? You know, so it's like a good problem to have.
Yeah, what do we have? We had, I think, 3 or 4 different pairs of gray rears sitting on my pit board, just trying to match up, trying to figure out, well, these ones are a little bit longer, these ones are a little shorter, like just trying to figure out which ones I wanted to run.
That's how I helped Tater. Like that, we were like, I think that spring is that spring combo. That looks good. You know, that's all I really did. But going through. You know, I think you just had a solid program. You ran through it, and I'm just kind of going through the motions of what I saw as a team manager and observing what Tater did on his championship winning weekend, and sharing it with you guys so that you guys can kind of get an inside look on what we were seeing from Frank's point of view, my point of view, and then obviously Tater's point of view from what he was doing. So one of the questions I had also is, at some point you slipped in a brass kick shim. When did that go in, and what was the thinking behind the brass kick shim? Because I'm thinking myself, you know, other people are probably looking for rear grip. They might want to weigh down the back end of the car, but you end up putting a little bit more weight to the front of the car. Any reason or any insight on that?
Yeah, I mean, typically, I don't think I've ran that brass kick-up shim ever until Nationals this year. We were struggling for steering at that race, just couldn't find any rotation at that race. So we ended up actually putting it in, and it just kind of felt different in terms of just the overall balance of the car. It definitely gives it more steering, but it also, for some reason, seems to transfer weight better, in my opinion. So I tried it at Dirt Burners one day. We tried the brass kick-up shim, and it gives it on the AKA tire, for some odd reason, I actually felt like I had more rear grip and more. I could just get on the gas earlier with it. I don't know if it's due to more weight on the front end. It just throws more to the back. I'm not really. Frank would be a better explanation of that one than I am, but it just it just has an overall better balance. I mean, ever since nationals, I've had it in my car. I got it in my car for this weekend at Hoosier too, so it's something that I'm going to start, I think, running regularly. I think it's like just under 20 grams, so 16, something like that.
It's like 7.
It's like
7.
Yeah, it's like it's like just a bit. It's not a lot, but it's a bit. And I prefer running at one, obviously, on carpet, just because the front end has a little more tameness, and it does add a little bit weight to the front, so you get a little bit more initial steering. But sometimes when your front end is too heavy, you actually lose a lot of steering, a lot of corner speed. So you guys got to kind of just to have the right balance, and with that front end weight. So it was just something curious I thought was kind of cool to see on a car on dirt that you probably wouldn't typically, just assume that's part of the setup. So the next thing we're going to do is jump into qualifying and then watch the mains together and just kind of relive that magic A1, A2. So just a 10-minute spill there. But I want to go through and say hi to everybody and make sure that you guys are recognized. I want to thank you guys for actually watching the show. So Larry Tom, obviously part of watching this thing from 432. So early visitor. Thanks, Larry, and thanks for the awesome facility, the track, the event. I owe you some money on tires, so I'll catch up with you afterwards. So we're even. Don't think I forgot. So Warren Campbell, thanks for the congratulations. Ryan Doreen, man, always a positive dude, has said so many wonderful things, and one of the first guys to congratulate us on our win. Jose, what's up, Jose? Thanks for support. And repping TLR, Tom Bishop was chatting with him earlier on. What's up, Tom? Eric Lawson, welcome back to RC. Glad you took a nice break. Hope coming back kind of rejuvenates some of those fires and gets the interest going. Every once in a while, I gotta take a break now and then from being at the track too much. Andy Krivitz, hey, Cole says he really enjoyed working with Frank at Worlds. So there you go. Frank, you got a buddy. Cole Toller and Frank. So
sorry, Cole.
I set Cole and Frank up together, as Frank was going to be Cole's mechanic, and Cole's mechanic. I had to let Cole, hey, I hope you don't mind, but Frank's going to be your mechanic. He's going to walk you through all the tech stuff and be your guy. And at first, I think the two had a little bit of, I don't really know Frank, and I don't really know Cole. I've never worked with them at first, and then later on, it became like this magic little duo where Frank would get fired from being the mechanic and then he'd go work on somebody else's stuff. But then Cole would have a change of heart and rehire him back on the team and be his mechanic again. So it was pretty funny. I think the two worked really well together. And obviously Cole had an awesome time and an awesome result for being out a few months with some health issues. So glad to have Cole back and being a part of the team for sure. So Andy, missed Cole, miss you too. So hope to see you soon. Tim, what's going on? Thanks for saying hi, watching the show. JS has a question. New two-wheel buggy. Do we just want to go through and answer some of the questions now, Frank? Since we could probably do that.
Yeah.
Knock some of these out.
Yeah, when they're on topic. Yeah, I mean, obviously, our buggy is more than capable of winning big races. So we just saw that last week. But yeah, we're a little bit older than we'd like to be, and we're working on new stuff. No details or timelines or anything like that, but we still got a little bit left with the 5.0, some races to win with that.
Yeah, one of the big questions is about the new buggy. Obviously, like Frank said, the old one has been one of the most winningest two wheels probably in this late generation of cars. It's currently the two-wheel modified dirt 10 scale back-to-back national champion, so 3 times in a row, 3 times, and then now current 2023 world champion. So the platform, it's a little old, but she can definitely get it done, and with the right setup and the right driving, it definitely can win now we can say it, the biggest races in the world. So All right, so let's see. Hunter King, what's going on, buddy? Hope you're well rested after the Worlds. Good to see you there. There's a little Frank's message. Yep. And then Matt Higgins, is he the youngest to win the Worlds? And this was something I wanted to do a little bit of research in, but I didn't get time to kind of calculate all the days. Tater, are you the youngest, or did Spencer get you at 16?
Spencer was definitely younger than me. We actually were talking about that a couple days.
Yeah, because I figured you guys would chat since you guys do some gaming.
Somebody brought it up. I don't know this. Somebody said Cav was the youngest. I don't.
What?
Yeah, no,
he
that
was
doesn't.
Still Pudge. He might have been 15.
No, somebody said he was 16. Somebody said he was a younger 16.
A young 16.
Spencer. Yeah. So I don't know for sure, but I definitely know that Spencer was younger than I was. I think it was 3 or 4 months.
Spencer is for sure younger than you when he won his at 16. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that pretty much puts that out of the question. Even if Cav was the youngest, it sounds like Spencer is younger. So no, Matt Higgins, he is not the youngest. So very close though, probably a few months, if not. So Victor. Just saw him yesterday at the track. Stopped by to hand off Gerardo a world shirt. Thanks for the congratulations, Philip Richards. To Will question again. It definitely is in the works. Now, Rustin also with same question. Yeah, and then same with Tim. Barry says, "What's up, Tater?" I remember Tater. Dude, Barry has a great Tater story. We can get into this maybe another time. It's probably not proper for it's probably not PC enough for so Tater knows what I'm talking about, man. Some dirty words were said to Barry at an untimely fashion. It was Barry's first impression of Tater, so interesting because I was talking to Barry just 2 days ago, I believe, and we were talking about that incident. And he goes, "You know what the first thing he said to me was?" And I was like, "Oh man, I don't even want to know." And I'm pretty sure you probably deserve it. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Maybe. He probably did.
He usually does. He very usually deserves it, right? But not always. So if you don't know Barry is Brendan. Brianna's dad, Brianna Schimmel. Another side story. I was texting Tater, and I was trying to type Brendan's name in, and it came out as Brianna. So now he's Brianna Schimmel. My phone gives people nicknames. It just does that. All right, so we got Michael Malat, man. Congrats, Tater. Just so you know, I called this before Worlds. What? I know you had been putting in the work. So Michael Malat has been a fan, obviously. Now it's called that you would win 2 world championships. Man, I would. That's Michael, or knowing the truth, knowing the future right there, man. Because I don't think a lot of people, if we were in Vegas, I don't think a lot of people before this race would have put their money on Tater. Not to take anything from Tater, but there's just some favorites that have historically got it done. And are on pace to kind of do the same thing, but that good eye for Michael to foresee the future there. So, all right, so let's talk about qualifying really quick. We can get through we got through most of the questions there, or half the questions. Qualifying. Let's talk about that. How did you feel going up to your first qualifier, and then when did you start feeling the flow? Like, hey, I can TQ rounds.
Yeah, I mean, like Frank said, even in free practice 1, everything kind of felt good. I feel like the switch of the layouts definitely benefited me. The flow and just the overall connection of the 2-wheel drive layout definitely suited me a little bit better. I felt like I was able to drive more like myself, my normal lines, and didn't really have to think about any of that stuff. So that definitely benefited my confidence going into qualifying. All the free practices and control practices were pretty good. I mean, I didn't really have a ton of, my car is not feeling the best. So I knew my car had the speed all weekend, after free practice 1. So I just kind of had to, just work on my driving and my mental state, like you said earlier. A lot of it was just, going into the race, I definitely didn't think I'd be competing for the win. I knew it was a possibility for sure, but I was just looking forward to try getting in the main, get in the mix a little bit, but so it was definitely a little bit of a mindset change, after the first couple of practices. So kind of had to adapt my mindset to that and just really focus on trying to hit my marks for 5 minutes straight, because I mean if you make a mistake at it, nationals or an INS, you can sometimes come back from it, but at this race, if you made a mistake, it was the time's gone. You're never seeing it again.
So for a hint for everybody, the higher the level of competition, the less likely you are able to come back. I don't know how to really explain that, but like when everybody is good and nobody's making mistakes, when you lose time, you lose time. You don't really make it up on these guys. So you kind of have to accept that and not try to hustle and get yourself into a worse situation. When the competition isn't very good, you can have a crash or maybe two, and just throw in some hot laps. Next, you're back in battling for the lead. You know what I mean? But it's not that way, especially at the Worlds when everybody, like, you drop 2 seconds on the lap. Oh my gosh, you're probably the last person on that list to get called. Even though your time's not slow, you're probably the last on that list. And that's never a good confidence feeling. You don't get fired up. Even though your time, it could be a top 10 run still, you just are last on that list. And that feeling just never really sits right. And you lose a lot of confidence. Even if you're trying to like pull it together, it's much harder mentally to try to put that together once you lose some time. And yeah, it's just remarkable to be able to recognize that at such an early stage in your career at such a large event. Okay, so let's go watch A1 and A2. So I got them queued up. Hey Tater, have you watched, and Frank, have you watched the different video of all the videos out there from the races? Which one is your favorite, Tater? Because I got Raceway 1 queued up. I kind of liked his narration. It reminded me of me when I was doing like the live stuff and talking about the races, when he's like following the thing and talking about it and trying to get the viewers into it. So it reminded me of me. I got that queued up. And then for A2, I got the Red RC clip. So we can go
there.
Have two different
I think our only ones. Yeah, I've watched Red RC, J Concepts, and obviously the Mod Live. So those are the three that I've watched.
All right. So Frank, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's go check this out. All right. And I'm going to go here. Do that one of these. So this is just after Spencer gets introduced. Obviously, home. Standing ovation. I don't think I've heard too many that loud. And then here we go.
I actually really liked the driver intros before A1. I really don't like them before A2. It just seems like the nerves are you go up a level each main, and making the guys stand there and think about it for an extra 7 minutes is just kind of brutal.
Yeah, I think I don't know why when they started doing it at A2s, but I agree 100%.
He looked really
before A1s, get that out of the way,
in control of qualifying round 3 before he was interfered with.
Okay, so we got obviously the 2-lap warm up. His spot was at the corner here where I was kind of generally standing.
So just a reminder, if you've kind of flicked forward, this is
on the triple side.
2-wheel drive A main number 1.
I will say I was a little nervous about setting Tater's car down for the main because his juju was good. I didn't want to throw it out of whack. I'm like, you sure, dog?
I'm kind of not a type of person that believes in that kind of juju a little bit. I had my lucky shirt on, the TLR one that I have. That's the only thing that I have that's kind of a lucky charm, I would say. Otherwise, I don't believe in the race juju or the luck or doing things a certain way for luck.
As the grid gets set up.
For some reason, I have that lucky shirt thing.
TLR and pole.
Yeah.
Two
My big thing
TLR.
is like
Oh!
if something's
Then a
going good, don't interrupt it.
Then Associated,
I totally
believe,
understand.
And then Schumacher, and then Associated.
All right.
Associated.
Look at that crowd, man.
TLR coming up the rear.
Just like 3-4 rows
We are
deep.
ready to go.
Just so awesome. All right, Tater, before I start, are you nervous right now?
Like when I was driving, at the
right
race,
when the tone, like the countdown from 10, like, are you like ready just to explode? Or are you just thinking calm? Or are you like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more tension, I would say, rather than nerves than usual. Naturally, I mean, it's my first time TQing a big mod event to begin with, so that was, for sure played a factor. But luckily, me and Spencer talk a lot. We talk almost every day. We play games together, so that kind of friendship we had, it was actually more comforting knowing that a friend was behind me rather than somebody that I don't talk to a lot or don't know that well. So that actually did help the nerves a lot.
Oh, wow. Interesting. That is true. I never thought about Spencer being one of your gamer buddies and it's like only behind you. All right, so here we go.
So Sontag leads them away, gets a clear start. He's up onto the tabletop and around.
In this moment right here,
nice,
I was
smooth start,
just
no
ready.
incidences.
Or like this one right here.
Yeah, you don't see it on this view because
Yeah.
they're capturing all the mayhem afterwards. We'll see it on another view, but
Looks like that
I was
Spencer
just
Ripken
like, holy smokes.
wasn't
Yeah,
involved in
it's
that.
I actually didn't even see the contact on the stand. You can't tell from here, but
Teammates
where I was
touching
standing,
one
that
another.
pole was directly in line with where my car was.
Oh.
I just saw my car go
TLR.
flying over the face of the jump after I spun out. I'm like, oh god.
Ooh, and that one.
Sontag,
Yeah,
perhaps
there was a
showing
couple.
signs of
A1
some
was
pressure, very wide
definitely had to
open
shake some
triple.
nerves out.
You had a couple 5-0 grinds
around.
going on.
These
You know what, though? It
American
reminds
racers
me
really
of
have the advantage over
the 2015
Europeans with
Worlds,
their
where
air
Spencer,
work,
when he got in the
small,
lead, he had a couple of
slow
like
speed
little
tracks
nervous kind of
where the
bobbles,
jumps
but
are
then
positioned
he survived them, stayed on his wheels, and then once he like
really
calmed down,
you
just had it.
And I think we need more of this
Where
in
did
Europe.
where did you feel like you were the strongest against
So
everybody
it
else
is
here?
Tater Sontag, and it's Aiden Horn.
Probably the center section.
Followed by Ryan Cavallari.
From like the jump
And
section on,
Mayfield.
like from front of the
Yeah,
driver?
so
experience
so
of
from
the
like
right
right
multiple
here,
world
from here
champions
through all
coming in,
this
but
section, I
Sontag
felt
at the
super
moment is
comfortable.
starting to
Through
I
here,
think you were
felt
the
really
fastest
good.
in this section.
And then this is about where I'd say is where like everything else felt normal.
His
Through
car
all that
looks
middle
good.
section, all the tight stuff, I felt like my car was really good, and
He's
I had a
getting
ton
around.
of just comfort in it. I didn't really have to think about it ever. I just kind of drove the same line every time, and then
Now,
I knew what my car was going to do every corner. So
as Sontag breaks away, Aiden Horn is going with him.
this was like the
Sontag and Horn,
least
two
nerves.
relatively
Obviously, just
unknowns
being
in the
able to
world
race
of
together
World's
every
A
week.
finals,
So
so very
So this
honestly,
is just
they
like
are-
practice.
yeah, this felt like a Tuesday night club race at Dirt
One
Burners.
thing-
Honestly,
well,
Oh, man.
that's kind of what I was
Sontag
kind of telling
up
myself.
at
I'm like,
60
just back at
degrees
Dirt
to the
Burners,
plane of
nothing,
the
nothing different.
tabletop, and managed to get it back down, but stepped right across the track, losing a little time. It really is only Horn that is going with him, but there is a gap.
Yeah, it was hard because where we were standing, Thomas and I were both
Tater
standing by the
Sontag
triple lip
leads.
coming on
He
the
looks
straightaway.
comfortable. He hasn't
And,
got enough of a buffer
We
to
just see
make
the
a
car
major
disappear,
mistake.
and then it would just
But he
pop
looks
over
comfortable
the
out
jump
there.
for the
Aiden Horn
tabletop in the front.
has gone
And every
with him,
time it'd come over, like
Ryan
a
Cavallari
little sideways, she was like,
leading
"Oh,
a pack.
come on."
Yeah,
get
there
it
was a
back."
couple moments, man, where I was
So Sontag
pinching
is the
my
fastest
cheeks,
man in
dude.
track.
I
And as I was
was
just saying, Cavallari leads a pack of Mayfield and Corrupt.
Yeah,
and
that
then
front section,
Schimmel.
it was tricky for sure. I mean,
This
if you
is Tater Sontag,
me
at the lead
especially,
now.
had a lot of
He
comfort
really
in
has
this, like I felt like I was
significantly
jumping that
gapped
part a
Aiden
lot
Horn
more
at
into
this
the
stage.
corner than most people.
So
So if I missed my line a little bit, it
dare I
definitely
say it,
there was a lot of
it's
times
now
where
Sontag
the
with
last
a
lap
minute
of
and
I think
50
8-2,
to
I
go.
was
It's
almost
his
upside
race
down
to
when I went
lose.
off the face of it.
He has put
Is
in
it just a certain section
remarkably
on that
mature
jump face
performance
that's a little
so
slicker?
far.
I
Only a
noticed
couple of
throughout the
little
weekend
bobbles.
that if I would jump like right on
I
the
have
inside
to
of the
say,
pipe where
this
most
looks
people were kind of like
Less
fading
form
out to try to arc the corner, there was no rubber
pull
lane
something
there. So
out.
if you went,
Mm.
I mean, the
And
groove
now-
was still this.
Sontag stuck
This
on the
one,
bike.
scared
man.
me.
Wow.
Yeah, the
So,
Marshall
the race is
ran to
on.
help
Now
the
we've
other
got
side,
Sontag
and there was
and
no
Horn.
Marshall there.
Mistake at the
Yeah, that
hair,
was
Yeah.
Hecker,
right under
dude.
our nose here.
Yeah.
Sontag.
Yeah, no,
That's
that was
how it
Hecker. He
happens.
came
You
up and
comfortable
apologized.
lead,
I'm
and
like,
all
dude,
of a
what are you
sudden the
apologizing
concentration
for?
drops.
Because,
You
man,
think you can
I was
just
trying
back
to
it
get
up
Tater. I'm
a
like,
couple
dude,
of
you were
percent.
you were
can't.
doing what you were supposed to
Concentration
do
dips.
and
Next
reacting
thing, something
to
Yeah.
happens.
crash,
So what can Aidan Horn do?
then you
Horn
were
has to
gone in
double
your
take
corner,
at
and somebody
the
else had to
hairpin
take it.
under me.
But he felt like
Car
it looked like he felt
not
really
locked
bad.
in.
I'm like, yo,
Yeah, he
dude,
did. He
all,
said
all
something.
good.
Sontag
Like,
looks to
I'm like,
build. Looks
I'm
like
like,
he's
you're
building the
just
lead
corner
again.
marshaling. That's
Cavallari
sometimes what happens.
there in third with the Schumacher.
Yeah, this is the point of the race where I,
The
you
new
know, just kind of,
Schumacher
I had to.
really proving
That's one of
to
the
be
times that you just kind of gotta
very
forget
good,
about what just
considering
happened
it's
and
his
act like it
first
never
big
happened. 'Cause
test.
that was like it
It is
happened,
only
and
a
like my
world
heart just kind of
prototype
sank. I'm like, oh my
Schumacher
god, there's no
on, and it
Marshall
sounds
there.
like they may release
Luckily,
it as
the
a,
other Marshall
well,
saw.
well,
But,
that is
yeah, I
controversial.
definitely had to
A
strap
clear
up
touch
after
there
that
from
one.
Cavallari on the back of Horn.
So,
Yeah,
And
so
now
this
that
little
they got
incident,
together, now you got a
Touch
big
spun him
lead.
round.
yeah, that little incident
helped
really
a lot.
helped out your lead and
Had
the
the
ability
stop
to
and
just
go,
kind
too.
of
So stop and
just
go.
cruise.
That's what happens. It was a
There's
clear
a stop
touch.
and go.
He should have yielded.
Yeah, that definitely. You know, once I
Just
saw
the way
that
it
out of
goes.
my
Now
peripheral
here is
vision,
Tater
I'm like, all right,
Sontag.
this is
While
now I just
all that was
kind of
going
drive
on,
around for the
Tater
next. I think there was
Sontag
like a minute
has
left, and
re-established
don't hear any
his
pipes.
huge lead.
That's a
This
long
is
time,
his
man, to
last
cruise
lap.
around at the World Championship
I
and
can
trying
tell
to
you that
just
Ongaro
cruise so you can
and
just
Hurup have
take a
crossed the
win.
line
It's
and
like
finished.
a minute.
They are out of it. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's-
that
Horn
was
is
another one, man.
significantly behind
Every time I
Tater
watch
Sontag,
A1, I'm
so
like,
he
man,
brings it around.
I made so many mistakes. In
And
this
there'll be
game.
a roar from the crowd. Tater Sontag.
All right, so
Sontag takes it. Leg one.
there we go. We have leg one done. Okay. So
All right. Hey, real quick, Thomas, we got a couple
Yep.
comments that
Yep.
having us talking and the audio from the video didn't work out too good. So for the next one,
we have,
we need to
should
mute.
we have audio or no audio?
I'd say mute the video audio, and
Okay.
three of us can kind of talk through it. Yeah.
It does kind of like StreamYard when it does kind of like when you have an audio source playing on top of your audio source, it does kind of cut out. So
Yeah.
Thanks for the feedback, guys. I will definitely get that fixed so we can shut off the race audio and just watch the racing. But Frank, what do you think after A1? What were you thinking after Taylor just crossed the line, secured A1? What was going through your mind at that time?
Well, I was pumped. Obviously, but okay. So in my personal racing career, which is something I always tie back to, I won a couple A1s where I didn't get the job done. So I would always get way more nervous after A1 went well than I would be, otherwise. So I was like, all right, awesome. Job's not done. Kobe Mamba mindset, right? Like, job ain't done. And I knew how nervous I would be as a driver in those situations, especially knowing that you got to wait a little bit. And my focus was make sure Tater had what he needed and just leave him alone. Let him chill. He was hanging out with Aiden. They were cracking jokes, kind of keeping his mind off of it, not letting that kind of the pressure and the nerves build. So that was kind of, for me, that was like, job's not done. And how do we just keep Tater from getting, too amped up or too nervous or too focused on that, and just kind of let him, not forget about it, but kind of ease into the next main and see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure. I don't remember who said it to me. It might have been Joe, I think, but after A1, they're like, dude, it was a good run still. But he's like, you just ran, probably your worst run of the weekend, as far as mistakes went and everything, and you still won. He goes, now you just go out there and drive around for 5 minutes. He goes, you're good. Nobody's going to be able to drive past you. So that was kind of my mindset after A1 was, I drove, not bad, but I drove subpar in my opinion, and I was still able to get it done. So that was kind of almost a confidence builder that I knew if I didn't make those mistakes in A2, should have been a lot easier.
All right, so going into A2, the mindset's tweaked a little bit, got a little more shot of confidence. What's happening now? Like, what are you thinking? How are you staging this? Is it still, just do the best I can, or is it a change in your mindset there, or?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely knew that that A1 was kind of a gift. Unfortunately, when Spencer hit me, it flipped him over, and that was, in my opinion, my main competitor. He was for sure. Me and him had, I think, a little bit more pace than the rest of the field throughout all of qualifying and everything. So I knew that Spencer was going to be my main competitor. So I knew that I just had to take advantage of that number one spot because you actually get a pretty good jump around the corner and everything. So I knew I had to capitalize on that time and make no mistakes for the first lap. So my main focus was just making sure I put a good first lap in so that I had that little bit of a buffer zone, and then I could just kind of manage it throughout the race.
Yeah, that getting a little cushion, especially from a guy like Spencer, who is immensely strong at hobby action, and just running in the recent times, he's been, up on his game and getting faster. So him attacking was probably what I was thinking, is that, okay, A2, Tater got it done. A1, Tater got it done. A2 is going to be a full-on attack, right? Like, from start to finish, Spencer's going to go 100% from the tone and see what, see what's going to happen, right? You can't fall back in A2 with a loss in A1. He knows that he has to go. So you kind of knew what card he was going to play, that he had to attack. And then when the tone went off, and we'll get to watch it here, but when the tone goes off and you stretch it out in the first lap, I'm like, yes, like that's exactly it, right? Like, because I knew Spencer was going to start off hot, and if he put the pressure on you, try to get you to go wide or kind of dodge, do a little bit ducking and dodging, he might open up something. But he never really got there, and the race played out just as I thought it would if he didn't get there. So let's check out A2. I turned off the volume, guys, so you should be hearing.
I will say Tater and I talked about that. I don't remember if it was before A2 or if it was just before A1, but I kind of told him, I'm like, you have a big advantage with that number one starting spot in the group over the guys starting second. So you're not going to see any pressure, at least through the front jump section. So just make sure you get through the front jump section and you're going to be good.
Yeah. I mean, look at the gap you get right off the tone. I mean, I even made a most small bobble, and by the end of the lap, I mean, I'm already, I had a pretty good, comfortable lead.
Yeah, look at that. This right there, that gap, I think sealed it pretty much, because you were able to work with this gap. Whereas if you were under attack and he was pushing and on your wing, it would be a much different race, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Having a gap like that at the level that we're racing at is like, it feels like you have 5 seconds behind you. You don't even have to worry about anybody trying to attack you or dive in on you. So you can just kind of run your race lines and not have to worry about, the guy behind you trying to pass you.
Yeah.
He's out of DRS range.
What's that?
I said he's out of DRS range.
Yeah, he doesn't have DRS. He can't. Well, it's really weird. Once you're there, you stay on the dude's coattails, and it's almost like you're getting dragged into him. But when you're not there, you try to throw down these hot laps, these hero laps, and then if you can't close that gap, it really kind of mentally messes with you, I think. And like I'm sure right now, Spencer's going 100% to try to close this gap up and drive the best he can to try to make this gap up so he can put pressure. And every time that he tries or puts in a hot lap or a good lap, Tater has enough cushion that Spencer doesn't get close enough to really attack. And that, to me, is the biggest difference in this race outcome. Like, you don't really see it, but if you're racing and you see this high level racing, you know what's going on. That if Spencer gets to the back, he's on. Like, it's a whole different race, and then Tater's driving much differently than he is driving right now, which is basically he's able to dictate every line and every corner that he goes into and every jump. He gets to decide how wide he goes into it, how tight he exits, how it, how long he jumps it. Like, he gets to control the whole race himself. But once Spencer's there on his bumper, he has to start changing his line in order to avoid maybe Spencer kind of diving a little bit deep or making contact with the rear end of the car, so that you start to lose time and get out of your groove. And there we go.
I don't know if you guys saw, but that was the lap Spencer made his mistake right there. Rewind to that. When this happened, that was like my, all right, I think I probably had a 2 second or so gap.
Here, it just bleeds a little wide.
When that happened,
the pipe.
Yeah. I saw he drop back down to third, and Angaro passed him, and I knew that, from qualifying in A1, that me and Spencer probably had the best pace out of everybody, that I knew that I just was able to drive around at this pace, and they weren't going to make up any time. Spencer can't go anywhere with Davide's in front of him.
I think for me, the thing that I really saw come to light in the mains is that Tater could drive at like 95% and have the pace of what Spencer was driving at 100%.
My car was.
Yes. So it was like that mistake didn't happen because, Spencer drove bad. That mistake happened because Spencer's driving at 100% from the drop of the, from the sound of the tone, and he's not making inroads on Tater. So now he starts driving at 101%, 102%. And then those mistakes happen. And that goes back to what Tater was saying. Now that he has, 2.5, 3 second lead, the only way they're going to catch him is if he makes a mistake. But at the whole time, they're driving at 102, 104, 105%, just ramping up the intensity, trying to make up the ground. And that's just going to lead to more mistakes. Yeah.
I mean, my car was phenomenal from the start. So I kind of knew, like you said, going into the main, I could drive around at, 95, 96% and run the pace, and nobody would be able to pass me. But like you see it in A1, when I made that mistake, I was able just to go, a tenth or two, 3/10 faster for a couple laps, kind of get myself another cushion. I was able to back it back down. Being able to do that, especially at this level, just having that comfort zone, knowing you can go faster in some sections definitely helps a lot. Because you're able just to, back it down 2-3%, not push the limits everywhere. So you can afford to not necessarily make a mistake, but you can afford to, lose your buffer because you can gain it back.
Hey, back up the video like a lap. Like one lap. All right, watch. See me? Oh, I almost fell over because I thought he was going to clip the pipe in the front.
I think I clipped it the lap before.
So
yeah, you got super close to it, and you can see my knees buckle.
All right.
So I get way more nervous watching these guys race than I ever did.
I think this is closing laps.
Yeah, I think there's probably less than a minute to go. Spencer was coming super fast at the end, and I kind of expected that. So that's why that mistake from him made it, my life so much easier. That's the last lap. Yeah, that scared me.
As it should.
And the funny
I did
thing
that,
is
and that was when I hit that pipe.
That?
I was like, all right, now we're backing it down 5%. I got a lead. I can, lose a second this lap and still win.
There it is.
I'm slapping the top of the concrete wall so hard my hand stung for 20 minutes.
Dude, what a moment, man.
Dude, I gotta say, Jackson was there fast, dude. He was there quick.
He was there before the race was over.
Dude, I'm pretty sure he went up the stairs before I jumped the triple. Because, I took 2 steps back and looked to my right, and he was right there.
Yeah, I was like, this guy's gonna run up there before the race is over. I'm like, I want to run up, but I'm like, what if he crashes on the damn last lap? You know what I mean? I can't get too excited right now because we haven't crossed the line yet. So I'm trying to run, but not jump the gun. Frank's like, Frank's basically not celebrating until like we got the trophy in the car. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
He's like, I'm like yelling and screaming and stuff on the. He's like, oh well, it's not done until it's official. I'm not celebrating nothing until it's like done. Like we get it at the awards banquet. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
No. For me, it was just like, I know Tater, and I like Tater, and I've worked with him for a while, but he's got Jackson and Spencer and Aiden. I mean, these guys are like they've grown up together. They're like really tight buddies. They've raced a lot, and that was Tater's moment, right? Like he's got these guys. I just let him have his moment. So I was there at the top of the stairs when he was got done with his interview, and
Yeah, we were celebrating, man. That was awesome. But yeah, job well done. Let's go through some of these questions that pertain to your racing, your perspective, and maybe some just general off-road questions. All right, question for Tater. Besides tires, what aspect of setup do you spend the most time? On or find most critical? From Matt Higgins.
I mean, generally, I would say the main focus is probably rear pills. The rear pills are something that I feel like that's what I changed majority of the time, going narrow, wide pivot, more anti-squat, less, more toe, etc., raising the roll center. That's something that I feel like I play with a lot. Regarding worlds, obviously, like I said earlier, shock package was the most important. That was my main focus, was getting right. But I feel like genuinely it's pills, whether it's rear pills or four-wheel front pills. That's something I feel like I changed the most personally.
Do you like your pills center, up, down? Like, what do you generally run for, like, let's say a clay track?
Yeah, so two-wheel drive. I actually just started after Worlds running the Avid C block. So as everybody knows, it's a -1 C block, so it's a little bit wider. It's -1 toe. So typically I run a fairly narrow front or rear pivot. So I'll run like 1 in or half in on the front C block and then kind of gauge the rear off of that. So right now, I think my car is 1 down and in, 0.5 down and in or down and out, one of the two. So I stay low for sure. Personally, I always keep the pills lower. I feel like the car just feels more into the track, more consistent when I do that. So.
Righto. All right. So focus. Pills seems to be a major thing. I also agree. Pills is something we're always kind of messing with. My quick fixes are pills and rear hexes and shock angles. So you mess with those 3 things, you can pretty much, as long as your shock package is like in the ballpark or good, like right springs, right shock package. I just kind of mess with rear pills, shock angles, mainly the rear ones, and yeah, not too much more than that, man. I mean, rear pills is a major one. All right, sorry I'm late. Congratulations, amazing job to Tater and the team. Here's a good question from Matt Higgins again. What was harder mentally, qualifying or the mains? Good question.
Honestly, I'm gonna have to go with qualifying, just because if you don't qualify well, you qualify 6th or 7th, especially at these races. It's you got to think about it. You always think about it in the back of your head. You're like, well, that's gonna make it nearly impossible. I mean, it's not impossible, but I mean, if you don't qualify usually in the top 4, top 5, it's pretty unlikely that you're gonna get it done, especially in a single A main format. Triple A mains, there's a lot more room because there's usually a pile up at the start of almost every main. So whether or not getting through that when you start in the back's hard, or can turn your main events around. But for me, it was qualifying, just trying to make sure I qualified good, because I knew that I had the speed to win the weekend after practice and stuff. So I knew that I needed to qualify well to make sure I had a shot in the mains.
I can't emphasize how important qualifying is. Let's say Tater had that speed that he had. Obviously, it's a main winning speed. If he had qualified 2nd or 3rd, he might not be able to control the race the way he wanted to. Obviously, the way he wanted to worked out. He was in full control from start to finish and was able to run his pace. Had Tater qualified second or third and have to run behind somebody else and run at their rhythm, it's a little bit harder to adjust. So with the ability to run out in front and be one of the fastest guys, it was to Tater's advantage, I think, in the main, to be able to run at being one of the faster guys with the pace and being actually starting out front, because he got to dictate the pace from start to finish and able to control the race the way he wanted to versus try to run behind a couple other guys and maybe get tangled up with their mistakes and then shuffle back with a different result. So it is very key to qualify as best you can, especially in today's racing where everything becomes very one-lined and it's very hard to pass nowadays because everybody's so good and they're just well practiced and they're not really opening up the mistakes and that window so you can get by. When everybody's really good, mistakes don't really show and it becomes a very one-lined like racing situation. Question here, Frank can jump in on this one too, as well as Tater and myself. I noticed most of the racers had their rear inner camber link set fairly low relative to the outside link. Was this done to allow more roll to gain more traction and stability on that surface?
Yeah, I mean, actually, funny enough, personally, I always prefer my rear camber block one down. I feel like that just suits my driving style more. That rear camber block, pill inserts always, a little bit of a hassle in the pits because I feel like a lot of people have different opinions on it. Personally, I like it down usually. I know some people hate it down, some people hate it up. But I actually ran +1 at the Worlds. It just felt like it gave the car more roll and more overall grip going through the corners.
Yeah, generally when you run the inner link camber link high, the car will roll a little bit more. And then when you run it lower, the car will roll less, which kind of, in some ways, gets grip, loses grip. You have to kind of figure out the track surface, the tires, and what you're sensing. Sometimes for people, when you go down there, you get more grip. Now, roll is a different thing. Roll and grip sometimes similar, but not. But you get more grip with it going down and sometimes going up. You get more roll when you go up. Any thoughts on that, Frank?
Yeah, I mean,
guys were generally running them higher than normal, right? At Worlds, you felt like?
I would say overall, yeah. I mean, the thing that the pills, obviously your axle height, your hub height, and the inner camber, like it all works together. So a lot of guys were running their axles lower, which is basically lowering the link on the outside. So that has a little bit of an effect on what Jack might have seen on some cars. But yeah, it's a giant, basically geometry equation between all the points in the rear end, and all of those things aren't independent from each other. So like we're running higher ride height than we have in the last couple of years. We're running super low pills. We're running our axles lower than we normally would, right? So it's like we kind of pretty far outside of what we normally run there. So yeah, that's kind of, it all adds up, and that's why it makes it those kind of questions hard, because like it's 1 + 1 = 7.45 sometimes. But it just depends on what all the other factors are. So, but yeah, like Tater said, I mean, generally when the grip's lower, I'll run it up to get the car to roll a little bit more. And generally when the grip's really low, that creates more grip. When the grip's really high, a lot of times lowering it down will actually keep the rear end from over rolling and dumping. It'll actually give you more rear grip.
Yeah. So it's something to play with for sure. Those two things that you mentioned, pills and rear camber link, inner, outer, they make a big difference. And like I said, my quick tune is rear camber links, inner ball stud location, and rear shock. And it's all the rear. It's rear shock locations. If I tune those things, my car usually gets around pretty dang good. Like I don't have to do too much wholesaling. Usually if I adjust those three things. Mike Sontag, don't know who this guy is, but he says, how did Tater manage to show up with such a dialed car?
I know why, because Mike wasn't available to help for a few days before the race.
Mike was supposed to be.
I do have to chime in.
He was supposed to be the mechanic. He was supposed to be the mechanic, and I don't know if he would turn to wrench all weekend.
The first time I've gone to the track with him for practice in probably over a year. I mean, he doesn't come to the track to practice. Me and Dakota made arrangements to go to Dirt Burners, I think like a week before the event. So we called in Grandpa, we requested him to come, so he actually did come. So he did help out. A lot of the changes that we made at Dirt Burners, actually, I stuck with and kept. So I will say a lot, to the general public, he might not seem the brightest, but he does have some good ideas from time to time.
All right. So if you guys don't know Mike, just a funny dude, kind of like the comedian on the team, but also the mood setter too. So he's Tater's dad. I've been part of Tater's program for a long time. Obviously, many people have told him he doesn't know what he's talking about, but apparently he does know something because obviously they helped Tater get his car dialed in a fashion where it was good enough to win a world championship. So, for those, on a serious note, Mike is actually very helpful. And he knows with Mike, your dad doesn't overthink things,
Yeah.
It's very simple. It's very basic, and it's just in your face. So if you don't worry about these things or take care of these things, the rest won't be good. Even the detailed small micro stuff, if you don't take care of the basic stuff, which is what he's very good at, is being able to kind of just give you a baseline rundown, honest 100% opinion about your car setup. So if he watches it, be careful. You might get some stuff back that you don't want to hear, and that might hurt your feelings. So if you are in that boat, I wouldn't ask Mike much. Just say hi. But if you want an honest opinion and you're not afraid to hear it, he'll tell you what's going on and get you going in the right direction, because he does help a lot of people. I've noticed going from track to track, 8 scale, 10 scale, there's a lot of people that come up and ask their dad about, this and that. It's always kind of random wacky stuff, but it's he does get asked, and his input is requested. So for sure has been a big part of your upbringing. And I know you and your dad kind of work together and just kind of keep it very simple between you guys. Sometimes I got to jump in and split you guys up, but most of the time it's just very simple, like, what did you see? Hey, this is what I saw. And it's like, okay, well, let's change this. And then you guys make a quick decision and move on. And that's about it. Stay out of your guys' hair. And next thing you know, you're off doing well. So obviously your dad knows a lot about setup and has been able to be a big part of your tuning, your 8 scale, your setup for your 10 scale, obviously too. All right, Tim Sutherland, comment on how much Tater has matured as a person. The first time we met him was not a positive experience. He has become a very good man in a few short years since that meeting. So I think this could be generally, I wouldn't say most people, but there's some people out there that maybe had an impression similar to Tim's. And I think they would probably have a current impression that's exactly like Tim's. Over the years, you've matured and grown a lot. I've never personally had any issues with you in the past, and we continue not to have issues now. So I don't really understand what some of these people are saying, because I never really saw any of that stuff or witnessed it or was a part of it or was treated that way. But a couple short years, and next thing you know, you're one of the coolest kids I get to hang out with at the track. It's been a lot of fun. We just kind of sit around. We make fun of the situation, make fun of people, and have a laugh at ourselves and just have a good time. It's usually very easygoing and very just, fun times with hanging out with Tater these days. All right. Let's see. Here we go. Ed Henley. So your next race coming up, right, is INS this weekend at Hoosier Hobbyplex. Eddie and Angie hosting this race. Over 400 entries last year. Yeah. Frank, 400 entries for a 10 scale race, man.
That's awesome. That's kind of what you hope for. Good turnout. Obviously, races in the Midwest always do really well because so many people can drive to them and don't have to hop on a plane. So, yeah, I've seen great track layouts and great races there at Hoosier, and hopefully I'll add that to my calendar at some point to be able to get out there with the boys.
Right.
Yeah, Hoosier's a good one for sure.
Yeah, if you guys haven't signed up or checked it out or just kind of on that fence, check out Hoosier. It's such a great facility. Eddie and Angie go the extra mile, make everybody feel welcome, regardless if you're full sponsored pro or a Joe. It doesn't matter. They have a great racing atmosphere, parts galore, and just awesome track. Like this year, I'm unfortunately unable to go to this race, even though I requested to go. It got denied last week, unfortunately. So I'm going to be supporting you guys from afar, which I've already kind of started doing. So I sent some chassis over their way, and so they can have the longer +4 chassis and tires and some Proline swag for the guys. I know we have new hats. Okay, so this is Tater. I got one of the hats brand new, like just peeled off the sticker and everything. I put it on. He's like, dude, that's fresh. And I'm like, yeah, it just came. It just came. He's like, oh, I want one. I'm like, oh, she should have placed an order. And then and then after Worlds, like I think we're like getting ready for the. We're just getting ready to leave, and we did all the photos and celebrated all at the track. Did the champagne thing, and Taylor's like, "Hey, can I get one of those Proline hats now?" I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess. So you got your hat, you got a hoodie, so you got your Proline goods. So yeah, I mean, for accomplishment of like winning Worlds, and you need a hat, and you forgot to order one. Hell, I'll throw one in for you. So we got Tater hooked up. But is there anybody you want to thank? I mean, let's take this time to make some thank yous. I know we're about almost out of time here. Frank's got to go because his daughter. Let's see, his daughter is turning. How old, Frank? It's her birthday today.
8.
Frank almost missed it. So Frank. In dedication to his team, and he almost forgot his daughter's birthday. Told me later today, he's like, "Hey, dude, we gotta wrap up by 6 because it's my daughter's birthday." I'm like, "Oh, good job remembering, man." So it's his daughter's birthday, so we gotta wrap this up by 6 o'clock. So Tater, let's go through some thank yous, and then I'll read through the questions while you do that, and then then answer the few remaining questions, and we'll close out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I said it all weekend in the interviews. Obviously, my mom and my dad. I mean, those are the first people, you think, they stuck with me for a long time, I've been doing this pretty much my whole life, so they've definitely stuck with me and supported me and spent a lot of their own money that they worked hard for to get me to where I am today. So obviously, thanks to them. Everybody that helped back home for sure throughout the weekend. You guys were awesome. I got countless messages throughout the weekend from, all the locals that used to come to our track and everything. So that was cool to see everybody showing their love and support. Obviously the TLR team, we worked phenomenally together for sure. I don't think we had any issues at all throughout the week. So we worked really well together. We normally do. We have a great time, of course. We try. We definitely focus on having a good time too. We definitely have a pretty good atmosphere. So definitely a good atmosphere to have. Makes, like we said earlier, the nerves makes it a lot better. Just being able to chat up, have a good time, share a laugh and stuff. Obviously all my sponsors, everybody at Phantom, the Proline guys, Horizon, all the other guys, Eddie from Brood, Zeke, and everybody over at Avid, Bradley for, just the best paint, obviously. He has some insane paint. He knocked the world's bodies out for sure. Definitely going to give a shout out to those. He killed it with the American flag in the back. It's very subtle, so it doesn't stand out too much, but when you do look at it, it's pretty sweet. So I definitely like that a lot. I almost thought about incorporating it into my everyday scheme, so we'll see, maybe for the next ones. But
yeah, I liked the flag. It was like not too much, like, yeah, that's clearly a World's Edition body. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was kind of done. It's kind of done in the background where it's not too over the top, and it's kind of silhouetted into the back. There's a flag, the stripes and the stars there. It just looks really cool. I think it should stay for a while. I've been actually thinking about doing some sort of like world's champion. I'm gonna get with Brent Tilke from AE, maybe Jason or somebody, and see what they think is, and Roar. But basically, do a world's championship like star or emblem or marker. I know, like in road racing, if you're the current world champion, you get a special like different jersey color. And then if you are a past world champion, you get like a special stripe on their arm, like a band, to signify that they are former world champions. I think that'd be kind of cool. And like in football, you get like different like dots or stickers on your helmet for different achievements. I think it'd be pretty cool to have like nationals and world's titles as being some sort of marker or some sort of insignia to kind of represent and make those drivers stand out some. All right. Eli, haven't seen this guy in a while. Good. Thanks for the words of encouragement.
Hey, I was going to say that after hours one, that because it was up before that last thing, the setup sheet was already posted, I think Monday after the race. So it's up on the tlracing.com.
All right. So let's go over some quick adjustments to the car, modifications. What do you think, Frank?
Modifications. I think one thing that was interesting is like normally we've been running a longer chassis with the +4 and the +7, usually +4 on clay a lot, and then we actually went back to our standard length chassis for the Worlds. So to me, that was a modification. And then I think we're pretty much everybody's running 13 mil shocks now. So that was definitely a big part of the package. Like Tater talked about is getting those on the cars over the last few months, learning the shocks, kind of reconfiguring the valving, and getting all that sorted out.
Okie dokie. There's a question about 13 mil shocks.
13 mil shocks. When are they going to be available? We're still working on stuff, but basically, we're not able to give out timelines and stuff until you see it up on tlracing.com.
Oh, here's some of our final questions. All right, so these dudes, we got an Airbnb. We got like 8 people, right? And these guys, they're just like cavemen. So they have the upstairs like 50 degrees. Seriously, like an ice box. It's a free
meat locker, as Frank says.
Meat locker. It's a meat locker. So they go upstairs before bed. They put on a Netflix movie, and they all pass out within like 10 minutes. So I don't know. Did you guys make it past any movie for 30 minutes?
Oh, we watched like an hour of Anchorman.
Oh, okay.
Oh God, that was a waste of an hour.
Okay, so there's a humor thing that we found out. Certain young kids do not like certain kinds of humor. Certain old people don't like certain kinds of humor too. So we watched Ted, right? I don't know if you guys are a fan of Ted. I watched that. I was not a fan. I watched it before, but I just find it so dumb that I can't laugh, right? So they watch Anchorman, which I think is a funny movie. And they're thinking the same thing. Like, this is so dumb, I'm not laughing. Like, it was kind of weird to see like the different kind of comedy, like what people find funny these days. Like the older guys, the younger guys, they all thought Ted was so hilarious. I was like, I get it, that's pretty funny, but not really like dying laughing. And then I'm watching Anchorman. It's the opposite. Tater and Brendan are like, this is not funny. This is stupid. And then we're all like, dude, what are you guys talking about? This is so funny. Like, oh my God. It's just, it's just one of those things. And I don't know if you guys can transcend some of this, if it makes any sense to you. Do you guys, Ted, is it a thumbs up, like a hilariously funny movie? Or is it like totally just kind of immature and a little stupid, And then Anchorman, same question. Is that a funny movie to you guys? Do you guys find Anchorman funny? Like the legend one? Or part 1, whatever. It's just kind of, I just found it so crazy that you guys thought that movie sucked. I was like, that's what, like,
we ran around our phones for most of it.
Yeah, you guys found it so distasteful and like stupid. And I'm like, what the heck's wrong with you guys? And then you guys thought about that about me when I was watching Ted. I'm like, this is not funny, Like, all right, so let's close out. We're almost done. Do you guys see any last questions? A lot of it that I'm reading through is a lot of thank yous. And awesome job, Tater. Yeah, here's the last question. Andy Krivitz, great question. Tater, how would you describe your driving style? Like I heard Dakota likes a lot of steering. Are you the same way? Is your setup gonna work for me?
Yeah, I mean, me and Dakota, I have noticed, drive very similar but very different at the same time. We both, I mean, I personally prefer a lot of steering just because I don't like to turn the steering wheel all the way. If I can turn the wheel, 80% of the way, I'm pretty happy and still have the steering I need. So I personally do like a lot of steering. My two main, like, I guess things I would say my cars have a lot of is a lot of steering, a lot of forward drive. I feel like I don't really usually use much side by. I kind of go in, pivot the car, and then drive out of the corners. It's more or less my driving style in a sense, which was not how I could drive at Worlds. That's for sure. You'd be doing hyper donuts. You try driving like that at Worlds.
Yeah. You were mentioning how like you were kind of driving like a stock car out there.
Yeah, honestly, that's kind of like after my first couple of practices, and it all clicked when I was watching Brennan in one of his practices. It looked just like him last year when he was winning all of his stock races. All of his lines and everything kind of seemed to connect just like stock lines almost, trying to carry as much corner speed as you possibly can, trying not to slow the car down at all. Because in stock, in mod, you can just, go into the corner, pivot in. You got all the power in the world to get going, In stock, you can't do that. So that's kind of how it was here because you couldn't utilize your power really out of the corners you do a donut. So the more corner speed you carried, the faster you were going for sure.
There you go. Sometimes those stock roots, man. Like I've always believed that to be a modified winner or to be one of the front runners in modified these days, you have to kind of be a stock winner too. I think the competitive edge that somebody has when they're winning in stock and the stock classes and being a front runner teaches you a lot about how to be a front runner in mod too. And if you have zero experience winning stock races, you're going to be hard. It's going to be very, very difficult to try to win mod races, without any of that experience. It can be done, but it takes a different path and maybe some different effort or some people kind of helping out. So here we go. We got some results back, man. Tater, Anchorman is awesome. So like you're missing out. There's something wrong with you.
Matt isn't exactly a youngster though.
Nah, that's true. He's probably the old.
I want to see somebody under 20 agree with that statement.
Well, Larry Tom, immature to both movies. They both are super immature. He couldn't watch any of them. All right, so
Larry, I thought we were friends.
All right, so I just want to say congratulations to Tater, Mike, the whole family, the whole crew there, all the hard work that you guys have been putting in. Been able to witness for the last 3 years and be a part of it, and it's just been phenomenal to watch you grow and achieve these awesome achievements that perhaps once upon a time were inconceivable. It just goes to the fact that if you put your mind to it and you have a goal and you do it right, anything can happen, man. And it happened, and I just couldn't be any more stoked for a young driver in the industry, and I'm just glad it was one of my guys. So congratulations, Tater. It could be any one of these youngsters, right? They're all super fast coming up, and there's a ton of heat behind these dudes, but you've been putting in the time. It's been showing. I've been watching every single race. The other reason why I know is because I keep having to write up more contingency checks. So that's a pretty easy, tell saying, oh, well, I used to never have to write these things for this guy. And now all of a sudden there's this one and there's that one and there's this next one. So you just start to kind of see that evolution. And I think last week was the first step, really, So congratulations, man. I really am proud to have you win a 2-wheel world championship. And I think everybody here, TLR, everybody watching, everybody at Horizon, everybody a part of TLR, we're super stoked and can't thank you enough and really proud of everything you've achieved and can't wait for more achievements, man.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Has it sunk in at all?
It's definitely sunk in now. It still kind of feels weird to see, like when I see some posts about some stuff like the JC confirmed list. that was kind of weird to see. That's going to take some getting used to, but yeah, when I got home, kind of spent a couple days at home, and then it all kind of sunk in for sure. I think it's pretty much sunk in now.
All right. Well,
It's
Frank,
just going to take some getting used to seeing.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out. Obviously, congratulations to Tater, well deserved world champion. First electric world championships attended. First A main made. First world championship. Pretty good weekend. But I just want to point out too. I mean, Dakota was in both mains and ran well. Cole Tollard, his first electric world championships. He made the main in 4-wheel, qualified 4th and finished 6th. Brendan Schimmel, his first electric world championships, and he made the main in 2-wheel drive. And then we had Tater won the B main of 4-wheel, and Aaron Kaufman won the B main of 2-wheel. So I mean, we had a lot of guys working on the team really hard all week, working together as a team. I mean, I think we definitely saw that in the pits, and I just man, really proud to be part of this team and seeing what we can accomplish as a group.
Yeah, for sure. I think the overall team, I'm just reading this last comment by Mike. It's just like, just get off the phone already, dude.
Yeah, it's past your bedtime, dude. It's not.
Eat your ice cream, go to bed. All right. So, yeah, the whole team, man, not just Tater. Obviously, congrats to Tater, 2-wheel champion, but the whole team ran phenomenal. I was really happy to see all the individual, just moments of brilliance by everybody. It was really cool to see the team elevate. You might not have a solid weekend all weekend or the whole entire weekend or the 9 days that we were there, but each guy had a good run or a magical run or something that they can aspire to and be like, wow, that was a top 20 run or something. And we had a lot of those moments. So I just want to congratulate the entire team and all the efforts that it takes to be there and to be progressing. Sometimes you get in a boat and then you're sinking, and sometimes you get in a boat, next thing you know, you're a speedboat just hauling ass down the water. So it's just, you get to decide, and hopefully it's the speedboat. So great job by the entire team, man. I just couldn't be any more proud of the team, the effort, the results, the fun. We had a pretty big dinner. I think we're almost 20 people big, one of these dinners, and some people bailed out. So it's like we could have had more. So yeah, just an awesome showing. So thanks to everybody involved at Horizon and TLR, Frank, Dunford, Todd Hodge, all the people behind the scenes, Mike Sontag, Dakota Fend, Cole Tollard, Aaron Kaufman, and those guys, man, have such an awesome team without them too. So thanks to those guys for being part of the team, and for everybody watching and being a TLR fan or a TLR driver or thinking about TLR cars. Thank you for watching and being a part of this and sharing something that we don't get to do we get to do this every 2 years, and it's been 20 years since we've done the TLR one. So hopefully it won't be another 20. That's my goal is not to make it another 20 years before we get to celebrate this, and hopefully maybe an 8-scale one or a 4-wheel or 2-wheel one the year afterwards. But I definitely don't want to be a stranger to the World Championship circle. So thanks, guys. And Tater, awesome job. Frank, thanks for everything. And goodbye to you all.